Find a comfortable position to lie down or sit. Take a deep breath and then exhale slowly. Repeat several times, feeling each breath. Try to calm your mood. Forget about today's worries and stress. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself in a peaceful place and feel the beauty around you. Now, let's begin. Let this story take you into a wonderful world, accompanying you through a quiet, peaceful night. It's a hot summer afternoon and the sun is blazing. Deep in the forest, by a clear spring, a beautiful deer was anxiously searching for water. Its big eyes glittered with anticipation, and finally, it found a clear spring. The deer walked quickly to the spring and lowered his head to drink greedily from the cool spring water. His throat quivered rapidly, and the sound of the water seemed especially crisp in the quiet forest. Deer muttered to himself, "Ah, this sweet spring water is a wonderful quencher of thirst." As he looked up, his eyes fell involuntarily on his reflection in the spring. He saw his majestic pair of horns, sinuous and forked, like a brilliant canopy. The deer murmured confidently, "My horns, how magnificent! Truly a masterpiece of nature." He looks up slightly, as if to show off his beauty. Unbidden, the deer's eyes moved from his horns to his legs. His legs appeared thin and weak, contrasting with the splendor of the horns. Deer sighed, "Yet these are my legs, how thin and powerless they are." Deer shook his head gently, his mood suddenly becoming heavy. He stared at his leg, having trouble hiding his inner loss. Deer continued to talk to himself. "I wish my legs were as strong and powerful as my horns, so that I could be fearless in the face of any danger." He once again bowed his head and drank, trying to calm his inner loss and conflict with the cool spring water. Just then, there was an ominous rustling sound among the trees, and the deer looked up alertly, his ears pricked straight. It was a hungry lion, creeping closer. Deer murmured urgently to himself, "This is the lion. I must run away quickly." So the deer quickly pulled himself together and prepared for the sudden danger. At this moment, his heart was filled with conflicting emotions, uncertainty about the future and doubt about his own strength. Deer was standing at the edge of the spring, lost in his own thoughts, when suddenly a subtle rustling sound came to his ears. He jerked his head up, his limbs tensing. From the hidden grass, a pair of sharp eyes quietly emerged, the eyes of a lion. The hungry lion approached slowly, his eyes filled with the excitement of having his prey close at hand. The lion whispered to himself, "I will get it this time. Prey at the water source is always the most defenseless." Thinking of this, the lion lunged out as fast as lightning. Deer pupils tightened. Panic has been too late to think about. By instinct jumped up, turn and run wildly. Deer mind silently read, "Run, run, run, get out of this dangerous place." The deer ran across the plains, its strong limbs carrying it like the wind away from the lion's sharp claws. The grass flew past his eyes, and the whole world seemed to whistle in his ears. The lion gasped during the chase, "Don't think you can escape. Today, you are my prey." The lion struggled to catch up, but the deer ran amazingly fast. The openness of this plain was exactly what the deer had in its favor. There were no barriers, no obstacles, and the deer's power to run was fully unleashed. With hope in its heart, the deer gasped and thought, "I can get away with this. With my speed, the lion will never catch up." The chase between the two on the plains continued for some time. The lion gradually showed fatigue, while the deer relied on strong limbs to stay ahead. The distance between them widened a little, and the panting of the lion gradually blurred in the rear. Just then, a jungle appeared in front of the deer. The trees are tall and the foliage is thick, a seemingly safe place of refuge, but hiding a greater danger. Without hesitation, the deer rushed into the jungle, intending to use the cover of the trees to completely lose the lion. The lion stopped at the edge of the jungle and said to himself, "I can't get into this jungle. If it can get trapped inside, this prey will be mine sooner or later." The deer whizzed through the jungle, slowing down significantly, but before he knows it, the danger is never far away. The lion stood at the edge of the woods, coldly observing, like a calm hunter waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. As the deer threaded his way through, he muttered to himself, "I've gotten far enough away that I shouldn't be caught. Just keep running, this jungle will be my refuge." The lion paced slowly at the edge of the jungle, his heart full of patience and cunning, waiting for the deer to make the slightest mistake. It would be able to once again control the prey in its own sharp claws. The lion smiled in his mind. "Run, keep running, you can't escape my paw after all." The deer traveled quickly through the jungle, breathing heavily, his heart beating as fast as a drum. His torso dodged deftly between the trees, his supple muscles tensed, and he sped like an arrow on a string. Gradually, however, he began to feel overwhelmed by the seemingly endless jungle ahead of him. The deer thought to himself, "If I just keep running, I can escape the lions." The burning heat of the day made the jungle air seem thick and humid. The thick foliage blocked the sunlight, and the ground was littered with interlocking roots and thorns. Deer's thin legs moved quickly, but seemed increasingly feeble. Deer muttered to himself, "My legs are still carrying me forward, but I can hardly hold on any longer." Suddenly, the deer's horns were hooked by a low-hanging branch. He lurched and tried to break free, but the branch wrapped tighter, holding his horns as firmly as iron hooks. The deer screamed in panic. "No, this can't be. I can't be trapped here." During the struggle, the deer frantically shook his head in an attempt to free himself, but the horns seemed to get tighter and tighter. He felt his strength being sapped little by little when once again the fearful roar came to his ears. The lion thought triumphantly, "Heaven help me, he's finally trapped." The lion's figure reappeared and he slowly but steadily approached the deer, a triumphant gleam in his yellow eyes. The deer looked at the lion in despair, knowing that he had nowhere to run. The lion said coldly, "As fast as you run, you cannot escape the net I have set." The deer's struggles gradually stopped, and the terror in his eyes was slowly replaced by a dead silence. In this last moment of life, the deer fell into a deep reflection. Deer spoke sadly to himself. "I have always laughed at my legs, and how could I have ever thought that it was they that had carried me out of the plains, and that my proud horns had become a snare for me." He shed 2 lines of tears, his heart filled with remorse and epiphany. The deer meditated in his mind. "It turns out that what really saved me in the moment of life was the things I once despised, and those I was so proud of did me in." The lion leapt up. The deer no longer resisted. He had accepted his fate. This story tells a philosophical fable that reveals the contrast between outward appearance and inner ability, and how life reacts in the face of crisis. The deer in the story is conflicted and disturbed by its beautiful horns and frail legs. This reflects the fact that people often have mixed emotions about their appearance and abilities, and sometimes even underestimate their ability to cope in the face of difficulties. When the lion appears, the deer's instincts and desire to survive are aroused, and it realizes that the only way to survive is to run away. This point emphasizes the fact that it is not the outward splendor that counts in the face of the challenge of survival, but the inner strength and ability to cope. The deer's thin legs, though seemingly inadequate, allow it to escape from a life-threatening situation at a critical moment. The lion in the story represents the inevitable challenges and dangers of life. Its presence forces the deer to face its fears and uncertainties, while revealing the harsh realities of the struggle for survival. This story is not just about the deer and the lion, but about each of us. It reminds us not to look only at outward beauty or strength, but to recognize that what really matters in facing life's challenges is our courage, wisdom, and determination.